Now it's time for us to replace the transmission torque converter. Anytime you're going to be replacing the crankshaft rear main seal, it is always wise to replace the torque converter front pump seal. So removing of the torque converter, you're going to hold the bottom and the top. You're just going to wiggle it back and forth like this. And you just want to keep it like this so the fluid don't drain out. So here is our seal for the transmission front pump. Now we have to replace this seal also, because this seal could also leak, imitating the crankshaft rear main seal by dripping fluid from between the transmission bell housing and the engine block. This is a common repair procedure for all internal combustion engine, regardless of diesel, gasoline, propane, or front wheel drive and rear wheel drive. In most cases, the transmission bell housing will become contaminated like this with oil and dirt, so it will require cleaning after the seal has been removed. Notice I pack that cavity with a plastic bag, basically wrap it up and just pack it so I don't want water to go into the transmission. This is the automatic torque converter that was removed from the transmission. This is bolted to the engine flex plate. What we want to do here is we want to protect this shiny color that you see on the torque converter. The reason this torque converter maintains this shiny image that you see is because of the oil. You see, when the oil coats the metal, it will not become corrosive like you see here where the water stain is. So that's why this torque converter was able to remain in a nice, new, pristine condition. But the best thing to do is to always paint it. So we're going to use this engine paint, since this torque converter is most likely to see approximately 300 to 400 degrees in temperature. The reason we're painting this torque converter is the next time that we remove the transmission and we detach this converter, we'll be able to look at the painted surface to see if there's any scorching in any location, to let us know that the fin inside the torque converter is bent or damaged, causing hot spots, making the paint peel and discolor. We also want to protect where the seal is going to meet the torque converter front pump. Before we can install the transmission front pump torque converter seal, we want to make sure we test it against the converter neck, making sure that it has some form of compression with the lip against the surface that it's supposed to be wiping. Let's go and install this seal into the transmission front pump. Eventually, when this torque converter is to be installed, we're going to need to remove this paint from where it has to attach itself to the flex plate. There must be no paint in this area when the bolt is being fastened and torqued to specification. Alright, now it's time for us to install this transmission front pump seal. And anytime you're going to be replacing this seal, you're also going to want to replace the crankshaft rear main seal, which is attached to the engine. So before we can install this seal, we basically want to perform an inspection. We want to clean the surface, the cavity in here. We want to make sure that it's oil free. There's no oil in this area. In the video description, you're going to see a link on how we replace a similar seal like this to the crankshaft rear main seal. In that video, you're going to notice we use a method for preserving the seal. We do not need to use that method here because the transmission fluid is a detergent and also a lubricant to protect the spring on the back of the seal from corrosion. So what we want to do here is we simply want to make sure we're going to install this seal and it's going to remain fixed. We do not want to just simply insert the seal because the hydraulic pressure could force the seal out. like in the video description below, you're going to see a video on how we install 2 seal for the crankshaft front oil pump. So what I want to do here is I want to apply some adhesive on the outside. This is the surface that's going to mate with the aluminum on the transmission. So we'll simply just put this into the cavity. Just want to snug it in there. Then we're going to use our install tool. This is a PVC pipe, and we're going to need a mallet for installing this seal. Okay, so we have to make sure this seal is fitted square before it could be rammed into position. This is gonna Okay, so you want to feel the leading edge of the seal, making sure that it's flat. Okay, with the seal installation complete, we must not forget to refill the converter with automatic transmission fluid. And that is what we want. We want to make sure it's locked into the front pump. Now that we're going to be attaching the engine flex plate to this torque converter, we have to make sure we scrape all this paint away from where the fastener will be mating the two surfaces together. This has bring us to the end of the installation for the automatic transmission front pump torque converter seal. It will also be good to remove the torque converter and make sure that the neck is seating against the lip, and you will look at the lip of the seal for the wetness of the transmission oil that was applied onto the torque converter neck.